Hey, good evening, everybody. If anybody's out there, I don't know if anyone is. Supposed to be able to check the chat here. There's also the internalized chat, and then we refresh this to see if it's there. How you doing, my friend Dan?
I'm doing well, man. I gotta tell you, I miss our what is it? Our G5 entrance music.
Yeah, if I can figure out how to do this on there, it's like he's still a friend. He still talks to me. I mean, like I have like a baseball player. I mean, he's a virtual friend. I've only seen him in person once. But he's like, yeah, cool, whatever. He actually heard. He listened to a couple of the shows,
That's amazing.
and he said he liked the way I used his stuff. It was always with respect.
Yeah, we need to get that. We need to get that back
You know what I
immediately.
gotta do is like once I get all the bugs worked out of this, I'm gonna get him to come on the show.
Oh, that sounds
That'll
good.
that'll be my goal.
Yeah, I like that idea.
G5 come on, but I don't want to. It's like if I screw up in front of like the 4 listeners and the 26 downloaders, I'm all right, but I don't want to do it in front of my man G5. But actually, he actually changed his Twitter handle to be now he's yet another Flash Gordon.
I was going to say, is he ever going to get called up? Like, is he ever going to play in the show? He was a big prospect there for a little while.
Fifth pick overall. The Gordon family is weird because they didn't really play baseball. It's kind of strange. Like, it's mostly public record, but there are some things because D. Gordon went to college with my brother at Southeastern College in Lakeland, and so I know a few things that other people don't know. Like I saw D. Gordon play his first organized game of baseball when he was in college because they didn't really like their dad, so they sort of focused on other things. Those guys like basketball better, right?
Interesting. But they're little guys, though, so they're not going to be, first-round picks being under 6 foot.
You can be little guys. But then, and I don't want to go into a lot of detail, but their mother, during the separation, their mother was murdered. So they moved back in with Tom Gordon. That's how they wound up in Florida. And after a little while, they took up baseball. So that's one of the things about both those guys is that there's this idea of it takes about 10,000 hours to get really good at something. Right? Most baseball players that have blown away their 10,000 hours by the time they get to be 20 years old. Those two guys aren't. And if you notice, D. Gordon got better over the course of his career because he was actually learning baseball.
Interesting.
He played his first game of baseball as a sophomore in college.
Didn't he sign with the Reds this week or something crazy like that?
I didn't see a sign.
He just signed.
Tons of signings I saw, but that was the one there.
The Reds signed him.
We've been out for 2 weeks. So that's cool.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I was right in seeing that. So
they got Moustakas at second, and they just signed Villar for short. One thing about Gordon is he was never a very good fielding shortstop.
No, he was decent in center for a little while.
He was fine in center, fine at second base, but he was a poor fielding shortstop.
Yeah.
But anyway, that was the thing. It's like, we've not been on for 2 weeks. Last week was a technical problem, my fault. Communication issue. I'll take responsibility for it. But we're learning the system, and hopefully we'll get it before too long. I know we're going to cover shortstops and second baseman today, but there's a few things beforehand.
I got a question for you. Go ahead. Sure. Go.
I was gonna start with do the question because I have a topic.
Okay, go. We can go on all the topics. My question is: did you end up getting into the Great Fantasy Baseball Invitational? Did you?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, I didn't know. I didn't know if you'd follow up with that because I know that was the big rage on Twitter this week.
I didn't really. I'm in League 8.
I think I'm in 9.
I have a weird. I mean, like the one thing about it is like I screwed up a couple things last year. I did all right, but I screwed up a couple things. And one thing I screwed up was the drafting of positions. Like, and that's a question that comes up like, what position do you want to draft in the draft? And last year, the only time I've ever done a Kentucky Derby style draft, we didn't do it the way they did it. Basically, everyone put in what they wanted, like their top 3 picks. And so if you picked something, like if you picked number 8 as your number 1 pick and you're the only guy that had number 1-8, you got the 8th pick.
Yes.
So that's not how this works. This works that when your turn comes up, whatever your top pick that's remaining, you get. So I had the first pick in our league last year, and I had put 15 as number one, so I got the 15th pick. But I would have rather had the first pick.
I did the same thing. I think I ended up with like a 13th or 14th, and I actually had taken a similar approach this year where when I set my thing, I left them more with higher numbers towards the front.
This is my theory on it, and you can help me flesh it out. There are like A-level players, like difference makers, right? Then there are B-level players who are the very good players, and there's a lot of C players, right? And so the idea of where you want to draft, like first blush this year, I'd like to draft near the back end because I think there are like 17 players who are legitimate first-round picks. And if you have the 15th pick, you get two of them.
Sure. That makes sense. That makes total sense.
But then you break it down to the B side. The B players are all still very good players.
Yeah, there's a lot of talent at the top of the draft.
If you go through that, there's about 40 more players that go that way. In which case, if you had the first pick, you'd get one A-level player, but you would get 4 B-level players. And if you were drafting at the back, you would get 2 A-level players, but only possibly 2 B-level players. And I don't know which one's better. I almost wish they would just give me a position and I could just live with it. But I think that I want to be near the back of the draft. I certainly don't want the first pick. I don't think Acuna is good enough to carry that over. I'm not that he's not a great player, but
in a 5x5 format, I'm not afraid of Acuna at all, and I love the fact that they brought Ozuna back. That lineup's going to be nasty this year.
No, I'm just saying, like it's like 1 in 24 versus 7 and it'd be 1 in 30 versus the 7th and 21st pick. I would 7th and 23rd.
Yeah,
pick.
See, I'm almost looking at those second round and the third round pick are so much more of a value because you're going to get 3 of the top 31 players as opposed to, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, but at 30, 31,
that third round, that's so really stacked in my opinion. Really, I disagree.
You sort of need one of the guys that I believe should go higher than 30 to kind of fall off. Like you need like a DJ LeMahieu to fall that far, or possibly.
See, I don't know, dude. I mean, I'm looking at guys that I would love to get at the turn right there. Like honestly, if I could say, let's say I had the first pick right now, if I would honestly, I might go with Tatis over Acuna. To be honest with you, you can split hairs with either one.
I would take Acuna because I think he's more of a lock for he's more of a lock for a higher home run total, and he's definitely more of a lock for stolen bases.
How can you say that based on what I've seen from Tatis, which I think his ceiling is immeasurable at this stage in his career? I mean,
his ceiling is immeasurable, but no, it's not immeasurable. He's not going to be the best player of all time. It's like right now, what do you really expect from Acuna? You're expecting 35 home runs and 25 stolen bases
easily.
Yeah. And that's a pretty high bar. And however high you think Tatis can get,
dude, he might be able to go 30-30 with 120 RBIs. You know what I mean? Like,
well, yeah, but I mean, I would say like put
less is best case scenario.
One thing I always say is like when you make a prediction, you should get the habit of like putting like a percentage on it. Like I am 70% sure, 80% sure.
Yeah, I'd be about 70% sure that Tatis could hit that kind of numbers.
Wouldn't you be a little higher percent sure that Acuna would do it, like 75, 80? That's the reason why you'd pick him first.
Sure,
because Acuna has done it before.
I love Acuna. I'm not saying that he can't do it. I also think, at this point, I think Tatis might have more upside. Mind you, both we're talking about two players that are 22 and 23 years old. So
Tatis does because right now Acuna is performing at the good end of Mike Trout's career's levels.
Yes.
Right. So there's not a lot of upside from there when you're talking about the guy who has, like the best wins above replacement of any player outside of 6 players in Major League history over 6 years. Yeah, he's up there. How much better is he going to get? Is he really going to be 40-40 every year? No. And what's this? I was just wondering if somebody calling from there. Nope. That's just me emailing me.
No worries.
Anyway, so that's it. So I think that I'm probably gonna do that thing where I go where I put it in like I go 115 to actually not really 115, 4, 14, 3, 13. I'll put it in some way like that. I really don't want the middle picks. Though I did, Andrea, when I had the same conversation with her on New Year's Eve, she said she likes the middle picks because of the regularity of it.
Sure, that makes sense, especially in a 15-team league where you're waiting sometimes for days to pick.
The one thing about the end picks for me is that there's 2 positions that are hard to fill, and I usually kind of quasi-punt them in the draft. I mean, I usually will pick one relief pitcher relatively high compared to most people. Like I'll pick the 5th relief pitcher off the board, or the 4th relief pitcher off the 6th, somewhere in there. So I'll be like, but I won't come back to the next one later. But sometimes when that doesn't fall the way I like it, I like the idea that I can sort of like, because catchers all stink except for JT Realmuto.
See, I disagree. I see some depth at catcher.
No, there's depth at catcher, but it's relative to itself. And I would, when you have an end pick, like a 1, or like when you're picking 15, 16 or 30, 31, you can wait, and instead of getting like the 4th best catcher and the 17th best catcher, you can just wait and get the 15th and 16th best catcher, and you're not going to be great at it, but you're going to hold service with that.
Sure.
Maybe the guy with JT Realmuto is going to be better than you, and maybe one other team where somebody has a phenomenal season, a la Mitch Garver 2 years ago, is better than you, but you're going to be in the top 4 or 5.
Dude, I had him on my roster that year and dropped him before he went off, and couldn't get him back on my team. I was so pissed.
This is the big story I read today. There was a note in the Athletic that they're going to change the baseball this year. Did you hear that?
No, I didn't hear that.
It's already underway. They've already tested the balls. They decided that there is this factor, this what do you call it? Standard, which is called COC, which is coefficient, or COR, coefficient of retraction, which is like how, if you take a round object and it hits a flat object, if you take a round object and hits a flat object, the round object is going to flatten against that, right?
Okay.
And then when it springs off, it'll go back to form. And so coefficient of retraction is how fast it does that. How fast it goes back to form.
That makes a lot of sense.
That going back to form is extra push. And they wanted to, like, the standard is that all the balls have to be between like 0.30 and 0.75, right? Which is a pretty wide.
Which ones makes it bounce more, the 0.3 or the 0.75?
I'm not 100% sure.
Okay, I was just curious.
From our standpoint, it doesn't really matter one side or the other.
Sure.
But the idea would be that all the balls were sort of in that mixture somewhere.
Okay.
And so some of the balls would be, literally, if you think about it, 0.30 versus 0.60 would be twice as whatever as the other one is, either twice as dead or twice as live. Let's just, for the sake of argument, say that 0.75 is more bouncy. So we'll talk in those terms. If we're wrong, I'm sorry, Miss Wills. I'm sorry, all the people that actually know this stuff, right? But so the idea would be that they wanted to get the balls so that they were even though they were within the range, they wanted to get within a tighter range. They wanted to make it so all the balls were between 0.5 and 0.55. So what they wound up doing is
that's really close.
Yeah. So
now, how are they going to do that?
Well, let's say I don't know the technical terms for it, but basically the idea is that they screwed with the first wind of the string. And so they made the first wind of the string a little bit looser, okay? And then it geometrically billows out through the whole thing. And so what that wound up doing is they tested the balls over whatever 150 hits or something, and they said that the ball is carrying about 3 feet shorter over 300 feet.
Interesting.
Right? And so
that's a big difference.
Well, they said it's like this. It's like the ball should be a little bit more dead than it usually is. It would play out as if every stadium's fences were 5 feet further back.
I don't know if I like that.
Well, it just means the chintzy home runs there's going to be fewer chintzy home runs. So the thing you have to be prepared for when you're drafting is your guy a real power hitter like Chris Davis or Giancarlo Stanton or even Chris Bryant?
Can you even say Chris Davis is a real home run hitter anymore? We're talking about Chris with a K?
Chris with a K. When he hits a home run, that 5 feet doesn't make a difference, is basically what I'm saying.
Sure.
Whereas 5 feet is going to make a big difference to Didi Gregorius. It's going to make a big difference to Ketel Marte. It's going to make a big difference to those kind of hitters. The ones that are the Tommy LaStellas. You know what I'm saying? You understand what I'm getting at? And so I think you're going to look at that and go, do you have a subscription to The Athletic?
I do, actually.
Yeah, go in there and read it. Not during the show, but afterwards. It's an interesting article. Just very superficial. We'll find out much afterwards, but it's probably the most important